Hey guys, my name is Ruben,
My name's Josie.
and this is the first episode of Undeclared. And Undeclared is this podcast and video podcast that we're doing that's supposed to basically help those who don't know what they're doing really, with their career and maybe even school, what they're studying. Obviously, undeclared is something that you can major in college. And there's a lot of lost people. I know I've been lost before, still am.
Same here.
And we really want to help anyone, students, or even if you're just looking to have a new career. This project is to reach out to different people and just hear their stories about their career, how they got to that career, their journey to get there. And if it's a fit for you, who should be in that role, who should avoid it, maybe how much it makes, and, all that stuff. And so I think, that being said, you want to start us off with who you are and, all your backgrounds?
Yes. So my name's Josie. I'm a special education teacher, currently work in middle school. My educational background, right? I have a bachelor's in psychology. I am also currently in a master's program, and that's for special education, mild to moderate disabilities. Just like Ruben said, lost souls, right? It took a lot of time and a lot of stress to figure out how do I get to the role that I am. Why I fell in love with it. Why am I striving for this career in my life? So when Ruben came to me with this idea, I thought it was pretty cool, pretty important, because even youth that I work with, middle school, even say that I don't want to go to school, right? I don't want to do anything. There is no point. So thinking of them, I thought this would be a great idea to invest in, to show not just people our age, but younger generations, that there are different paths that you can take. What are those paths? Because nobody talked to us. Mm-hmm. Nobody told us anything. And when I mean nobody told us anything, is that coming from, a Latina background, first generation, there was no guidance. And I don't know about you, Ruben. I don't know if you had guidance exactly, but that would be difficult. Mm-hmm. Difficult to start in what you even want to do in life, nor get the help to get where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I didn't have any guidance necessarily. I had encouragement, but I think those are two different things, right? Mm-hmm. I was encouraged to do something. I was pushed, and I was just told, if you're going to do something, give it your all. Mm-hmm. But that didn't help me decide what I was going to do, right? And so I think what you're experiencing with your students, I lived that entire, what you're talking about. Like, I wanted to drop out. I almost did drop out multiple times. Several times I was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to be in school anymore.
Okay.
And I think that stemmed early on from even elementary school. I was like, this school thing's not for me. I hate it. My teachers hated me. Probably some of the students hated me too, because I just did not care.
Can I ask what type of school you went to?
When I was a kid, I went very, very early on. I transitioned from a public school after preschool and kindergarten. I went into a private school. Mm-hmm. And I think people have this idea of private school being it's super luxurious, and that oh, you're super rich if you go there. And there are schools like that, right? Mm-hmm. But not every school is that. I didn't go to a very luxurious school. I just went to a private school, and a Catholic school, and that just meant the head count, the teacher to kid ratio was just extremely small, as in 12 kids to one teacher small.
Oh, okay.
That's preschools are bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in public school, it's you got 40 kids.
32 kids is
something.
That's not normal, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I was just a terrible student. Did not care. Did not want to be there. And my parents just hated me. I don't know if they hated me, but they were just you could feel the disappointment, right? They don't say that. Well, at times they did when I got older, but you know, but you feel that that overwhelming, the just the toll that it takes on you as a person, right? Mm-hmm. Just hearing people be negative towards you all the time.
So what do you mean by a terrible student? Like,
I think I tested well.
Okay.
Right? But I didn't do my homework. I fooled around. I was the funny kid in class.
Okay, class clown.
I was a class clown.
Teachers love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
I was a class clown. I didn't want to participate, and when I did participate, I either half-assed it or I had to make it comedic. You know, I just had to somehow I had to just disrupt the class, and I could have been and I did find myself that truthfully during subjects like math, and because I'm terrible at math, right? So like if I didn't understand half of the stuff, so like when you're put on the spot and you're like, what's that? What's this equation? And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what the hell that is.
Oh dang.
So you make it funny in order to mask that, right?
Yeah.
So I found myself doing that. Then when I got to like middle school, I'm still at the same private school because it went from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. I ended up leaving in 6th grade. I ended up leaving. I went to public school, and I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh wow!
I didn't stop being a bad student. I still didn't care, but the guilt of my parents are paying thousands of dollars went away, and now it's just, wow, this kid's in public school. And I think my sister and I had created this mindset that, like, if you go to public school, like you're a bad kid, right? Because and I think a lot of like kids at private school, if they've never been to a public school, have that stigma against public school kids, like, oh, you're stupid, you go to public school.
Oh my god.
Right? I know I did at the time, right? I was dumb. I didn't know better. But there wasn't anyone at the school, like no teachers were also correcting us on that. And we would actually, like, it was a known thing that we'd be like, oh yeah, they're like, that was a punishment, that if you got punished, you had to go to a public school. That was a punishment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I grew up with that mindset, you know? And so going to that, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm rebelling. I'm going to public school now. And I was like,
such a bad kid.
I'm such a bad boy.
Oh yeah, he's gonna learn a lesson. He going to public school.
He's gonna learn his lesson. He going
free education. School. Oh my goodness.
And I went there.
Accessibility.
And, I left there in the end of 6th grade, and I did end up going back to 7th grade because I was begging my parents, because I was like, again, like I said, that stigma of like, or the idea of like, this is for stupid people. And I can admit though, the curriculum I was doing was something I had already done like 2 years prior. So public school was behind compared to the curriculum I was doing. And so they were like, if you get straight A's, you can come back. And so I went there and I'm like, that's it? Like, this is what you guys doing? Like, psh.
No challenge.
Boom. I got like, I don't know if I got all A's, but I got like good grades, and I went back. And I went from like an F student to like an A or B, maybe 1 C student, and then went back. And then when I went back though to private school, I went into class, and like it was just this I don't know, I had this like feeling, I'm like, yeah, I don't belong here anymore. You know, and I was like, yeah, you know what, maybe it's time to just move on. It's time to just do something else. You know, as a kid, I remember having this feeling, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And like I just remember telling my mom, like, you know what, yeah, like, and I didn't fight her anymore about putting me back, and I was like, I'll just go. And I remember that it was just like, I went back, and I think that's when creativity started really like blossoming for me. Because the weight of like the financial weight of went off me because of the guilt. Like, oh, my parents are paying all this money, and I'm not, because that's all they used to tell me. I'm spending all this money and you don't care, you know, which is true. You know, I mean, that
could be heavy, right, for a kid?
Yeah, you know, like, especially because, you know, you guys aren't well off. Yeah. You know, my parents weren't rich, you know, so when your dad is like, I never saw my dad. He was always working. So when you have that weight on your shoulders, you know, and you feel bad. And so it was gone. And eighth grade, I finished eighth grade, and I had started making friends because when you're in public school, you don't know anybody in the neighborhood because you go to school. I went to school somewhere in like 3 cities over. No, like not cities, but like, you know, it was like a 20-30 minute drive almost.
I mean, yeah, in NorCal, it's like,
yeah, like, you know, I went
it's
from
like 5 minutes away.
So I was like, I drove all the way there, and then you come back. So like, you don't know anybody in the vicinity, you know, you don't know any of the neighborhood kids that run around like you see on TV. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to Jake's house down the street, and we're gonna play with our BB guns. I didn't know anybody in this, you know, and my parents didn't let me out. I was not an outside playing kid. I did play sports.
Okay.
But I wasn't an outside kid like in my neighborhood. Like I didn't get on my bike and like put like the baseball cards on my or like the cards on your bike and you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't living that life. You know, I was my parents, like, I think early on introduced me to it, technology. And not in like, I wasn't an iPad kid, but I was given a computer, and since computers were newer
at that time,
they didn't know what they were giving me. They just were like, this is scary, this is expensive.
Just emphasize on expensive.
Don't fuck it up. And of course I fucked it up. And I got viruses. You can figure out why. But yeah, so then high school came. I did 1 year at school. Failed all my classes except for journalism. Because
that's so random.
Yeah.
Out of all.
I got an A in journalism and got Fs and everything else because I just did not care. But journalism was just so exciting, right? Because it had to do with creativity and writing and, you know, digging up the story and just like, I just got into it. And so it was really great. And then I was like, you know what, this just school thing is not for me. And at the time, behind all the scenes and all that, I was learning to play music. I was playing in a band. So then I left high school and I went into like continuation school to just to go to school from home, you know? And they were like, don't do that. Like the school was like against it. They're like, because I wasn't bad enough to go into the school like on public.
And what do
you
mean by bad enough?
Like I wasn't a punk in school. Like I wasn't like going to teachers and cussing them out and stuff like that. Like I had bad grades, but those were correct. You could correct that.
Yeah.
Right? You can't correct like terrible attitude, like cussing at a teacher. Like they don't want that there. And I wasn't I wasn't acting out in a violent manner. I just did not care. You
didn't show up.
I didn't. Well, no. I showed up.
You showed up?
I showed up.
Okay.
Sometimes late. I was always late. I was truant. And they threatened me with truancy. I don't think I ever became truant. They threatened me tons of time with truancy.
Okay. So back to the journalism, you got into creativity, writing. That was a passion.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you got technology.
I got technology, and I was playing music. So it was like freshman year, I'm playing music, and I was like, the school thing isn't for me. So I left and went into a continuation school. And you go to school like once a week.
Okay.
So you go to school like once a week, and my mom was like, if you're gonna do this, like, you're gonna work. You're not gonna stay at home all day. And I was like, and I got excited. I was like, hell yeah! Like I'm gonna make money, right? So up until that point, you know, like my parents would throw me money sometimes, right? I made a lot of my money, smashing cans and bottles, right? My dad would literally get bottles and cans. And since I bothered him so much, I'm like, yo, if I smash it, can I have it? And he's like, no.
These are my cans.
What
you playing with?
He's like, this is dinner. This is dinner money. This is like, you need to go to Target. You need school clothes.
Why are you messing with my steak and potatoes?
Right? So that was that. And so finally it just became like, that's my job. And then, so I was like, okay. So then finally I go to work.
Quickly, timeline. What age?
This is sophomore year now.
So you're like 15, 16.
I'm like 15 going on 16.
Okay.
Or if, you know.
Mommy, daddy say that you have to work now.
I got to work now if I'm going to do this because I'm home all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, say less, no problem.
Go
like,
to work.
I'll do that. I'll go to work. I don't have a problem doing that. I like working. And so ever since that age, I have never stopped work. Well, I'll get into that later. I have never stopped working, right? Like I never took a break willingly or because like I got lazy. I always left a job to a better job. And so I feel like I've ever downgraded a job. I only leave a job when I think like this is a better opportunity.
Now, what was the difference? Okay, because we're in education, you didn't care. You could say, if that's fair.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Right? You didn't care. Then you jump into the workforce. The workforce, it seems like you're putting so much effort, dedication, determination.
Because I guess I saw like school learning all this math, science, English, wasn't making me money. And so I was money motivated, right? I was like, how do I get money? And I mean, it's like one thing is like you're motivated because like, oh, I want to get a degree. A lot of kids or a lot of people are just in general like, you get a degree, you go to school, you get a degree, and you get a good job.
That's what you think.
That's what you think.
That's what you think.
And that's
little do
that's
you
what
know.
You're told. That's what you're told your entire life.
Life laughs.
And then life laughs, and they're like, "Oh, did you know that welder, that blue collar welder, makes like $70 an hour?
Yeah,
and you have like $100,000 in debt, and he's making like over 150.
Yeah.
So like, and he only went to school for like a couple of years, was an apprentice, making money as an apprentice.
Yeah.
I don't really know the whole how you do that, but like,
we'll find out.
We'll find out because I got someone in mind. But yeah, so I was money motivated. And I'm like, oh, well, this is giving me nothing. And so I'm finishing a sophomore year. Still I'm doing bad in school, even though because like, you just get packets. You get work, you like packets, and you don't actually go sit in class all day long. You're just given packets. You fill the packets out.
And you're done.
And you're done. And you just return them.
And that was it.
And then the teacher would grade it and be like, you didn't even try. And I'm like, no shit. That's why I'm here.
Like, I'm not fooling you. And you're not fooling me.
And the thing was, I was starting to learn at the time, because I didn't understand still, right? That I was at a continuation school. And I didn't know a lot of kids at continuation school were there because they acted out in school. They were bad kids. Actually, were always in fights and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And like, I met at the time, my friend Michael. And he and I just like met each other, bonded, and then motivated each other. At the end. Bestie. He was my bestie in that continuation school. He motivated me. I motivated him near the ending of high school, because we were just like, dude, we got to get our shit together. Right. So like sophomore year comes, I'm done with it. Still didn't do well. And in that time you have one teacher. Like you could have different ones, but I only had one teacher, Ms. Grimes. Shout out to Ms. Grimes. Ms. Grimes was one of the best teachers I've ever had. I've had one more teacher that I'm like was really influential to me, but Ms. Grimes believed in me, and she would fight me. Oh, she would fight me, and she'd be like, "You're gonna do this. You're gonna graduate, and I'm gonna watch you graduate." And I was like, "Ha,
not for you, but for me."
Yeah, she's like, "Not even for you anymore. This is for me. I'm not gonna give up on you."
All these gray hairs, you.
And so I junior year comes, and I was ready to, because I was like, I learned you can drop out now, because I was at the age I was like, now I'm 17, I can drop out now. And I was like, I'm dropping out. And I told Ms. Grimes, I'm dropping out. She's like, the hell if you are. She's like, not on my watch. She's not on my watch.
Nope.
And so I was
over
like,
my dead body.
Right. My parents were fed up with me, disappointed me. I was the family disappointment. And I was like, I'm done with school. I'm dropping out. And they were like, no, you're not. And I was like, watch me. So I go and I tell Ms. Grimes, I'm dropping out. And she's like, the hell if you are. And I was like, and I was already too scared of my mom. I was like, well, shit, like, what options I got? What options do I got? And then she turned me on to this trade school that you do at the same time as high school. At the time, it's called CCOC. when I joined, it had just rebranded to SVCTE, which stands for Silicon Valley Career Technical Education.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mouthful.
I'll
Say that 10 times.
I don't
Anyways,
want to.
so she sold me on the
Not gonna
school.
try.
She sold me on the school because she said it gave you so many credits that you would be able to get. I would be able to clear all my elective credits in 1 year. And I was like, no shit. Okay, sounds good. And she was like, and then she gave me like a pamphlet, and it had all the courses you could take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since it's a trade school, it was free to high school students. And because if you didn't, it was like $800 if you like graduated and you're an adult. And so she was like, it's free. Like, take advantage. You'll get all your credit. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So I go, and I did an IT class, and it was like something, because I'm still on the idea of like, I'm money motivated. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do something. I know computers make money. So I was like, I'll go do something with computers. So I go to it and I do an IT class. And so I go on, this is the first day of school or whatever, first day of that school. I go, and then they like put this like computer shit in front of me. And then they were like assemble it or something like that. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yo, I don't know what the hell this is, like, at all.
Threw me a curveball.
And I was all like, so we're not going to just learn how to get rid of viruses and shit? And like, I thought I was going to be like, you call IT and like I answer the phone. And
that was it.
And that was it.
I was going to do beep boop bop, and that's it.
Beep boop bop. And that was like, one thing led to another. And it was like, you're good to go. Hang up the phone, right? Something like along those lines. I was like, yeah, it was nothing like that. So I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, yeah, I'm dropping out. So I took a bus there to get there. I took a school bus, and then I took a school bus back, and I walked into class, and like no one was there. It was just because like there was literally only like 3 kids in the class a day. So I go there, and Ms. Graham's like, "What is this shit? What is this? This was terrible. I'm done." And she's like, "No." And she's like, "We'll find something else." She's like, "I know you're into music, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, and because I had shown her that I was into music, and that like I was really into the idea of YouTube, and YouTube was still slowly growing in its popularity, and like, so I would post videos of me playing guitar.
Oh my god!
Right? And so,
please tell me they're still.
Yeah, they're still there.
They're still on YouTube.
Yeah, it's one's got like, it's not doing that too bad.
Not too bad.
It's growing still.
Okay.
It's like
someone please search
it's like 10 years old, but I was like, this is bullshit. I'm out of here. And she's like, no, hold on. She's like, they have a video production class. And I was like,
all right.
I was like, I'm giving this one more shot. So like, I was like, but I'm not showing up tomorrow if I'm not registered in the class. She's like, it's like, we'll figure it out. Just go tomorrow. I'll put in the request or whatever at the office, and like, just go to the class. And I'm like, whatever. So this next day I go again. I jump into class, and so this is junior year now. I jump in the class, and it was just him talking about cameras and this and that, and like Hollywood and production. And it literally just, I was just sold on like, what? And like, I have never paid attention to anything harder in my life. And I was just like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do I just instantly, that's like that. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I'm gonna like work in video production in some degree, some way. I will do this, and this will be my career.
Okay.
Had no idea how, but I was like, from that moment on, my life was nothing. It was just entirely consumed with video. The whole thing of video and photography and all that stuff, and making that. So, yeah.
Started your journey.
That started my journey.
Okay.
And so that was how I got started into that, and now I'm here.
And where is here?
And here is, my career is right now, I'm in video production. I currently just left a job as a senior content producer. And I was doing like live streaming for stuff, video and photo creation, all their assets. I wasn't doing graphic design, but all photo needs, video needs, the editing of it, and live streaming. And now I'm just working in AV, which is audio visual. Like that's live streaming and production.
Yes.
At a tech company now. And so that's what I do.
So how long did
How
long did it take you to get from 15-year-old you, barely showing up to class, barely caring, to now flourishing and growing?
Well, I was 15, so that was 9 years. It took 9 years from like freshman year me, 14, 15, to like now I'm 24. I'm about to turn 25. So like almost 10 years. It took 9 years to like get to where I am today, where I'm like, I have like a hold on this, and I'm still not where I want to be, right? I know how to make strides now, right? Because like it's like you take one step forward and 2 steps back, and I was in that constant battle doing that, because like, you know, I was a freelancer for so long, and jumping into this industry is kind of hard. You can't just jump in.
So how'd you get your foot into the door?
I don't know.
Really?
No. I was when I was finishing that CCO or the SVC, the technical school, film school,
trade school.
It was a year-long program, and I went every single day for 3 days, or for 3 hours. So like, and then you would go back to high school. But since I was in continuation school, I would do every day. I just jump on the school bus, go there for 3 hours, and then go home. And then only one of those days a week I would actually go to school, and then I would turn in all my packets and stuff. I turn in my packets and then call it a day, and then I go to work. So I was all morning there, and then working at night. And I was working at a grocery store. It's like a bagger, and like the cart guy, you know, because I was saving money to buy a computer.
So how did you start building your resume?
So when you finish that technical school, you get like a certificate that says like you're certified to be on a production, you're the bitch. You're certified bitch approved. Okay. So you're you have to get people coffee. You have to wrap all the cables up, and you just run around, and you just say, when they say jump, you're like, how high do I need to go? That's what you're certified to do. That's what your certificate says in this specific course. So I didn't do anything with that certificate. I got the certificate at the end of the year, but I was still in high school. So like senior year comes, and then that entire time I was like still in playing music a little bit, but I was like trying to take photos and video. But I had no intention of doing photography. And photography actually as a freelancer is my most lucrative source of like, you know, income. It all stems mostly from photography. But when I was ending that school, I had never taken a photo still. I didn't know what photography really entailed. And I was like, oh, these are way different things. And I didn't know they were really similar at the same time. So I end that, and then I started taking photos at the end of the year because I got invited to a concert. And the first time I ever took photos was like Bay Area like rappers like Kehlani. Up and coming at the time was like Kehlani, which I know a lot of you will know who Kehlani is. That was my first photo shoot ever. I took photos of Kehlani because I just got in by a friend of a friend. Wow. Yeah, so that was my first photo shoot ever, and there was like these guys called the HBK Heartbreak Crew, Heartbreak Kids, something like that. And they're like there's like Pilo, Oops All Berries, and like all these guys, and they're really cool, but I don't even know if they're still big anymore. Like they were Bay Area rappers. You gotta be local. You gotta be local to know who they are. And so that was my first photo shoot ever. And so after that, I posted those photos on Instagram, and people were like, "Oh, those are pretty dope." But they weren't just that. They were just like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so like,
I just did beep boop bop.
Well, no, I just
that was it.
They were like, "How did you get in there? Like you're like 17, something like that." And I was like, "I don't know. I just got in." And so everybody that was taking photos there was already like my age right now. So they were like, "Who the hell is this kid just running around
with a little camera?"
With my little camera, and they're like, "Who the hell is this kid?" Like, why is he here? And that was getting shooed away by security and like other people. And they were like, get this kid out of here. Like, why is he on the stage? And so, that's when I saw like, I think like G-Eazy was there. And I had no idea. So I didn't know any of these people because I was into rock because I was a musician. So I didn't know anything about rap. And as as these guys are driving me to the concert, they're like, oh, we're going to go see like Kehlani and like Marky Basie. And I'm like,
oh,
don't know who any of these people are. So I'm Googling them. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Whatever. Let me get there.
Little did you know.
Little did I know that if I was at my skill level now, taking photos then, man, I don't even know where I would be at right now.
Crazy.
Not doing this podcast. Oh my God. I'd be on tour.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was my first thing ever, and then now I'm here. And here is like doing this. I do freelancing a little bit now. I don't do it as much because I'm able to actually turn into my 9 to 5, which was a goal of mine. Just having steady income. Freelancing wasn't something I really wanted to do. I did it to build my resume up, but I would rather do this every day in a 9 to 5, getting a steady income, just waking up and doing something that I enjoy.
Right.
You know, and that was
Did you picture yourself doing this? Like,
once I went in that class, yeah.
Yeah.
Because one thing that the teacher said in that class was like, Hollywood, it's hard to make it there. First of all, as a cinematographer, just in Hollywood, as in like video production, all that. Yeah. Photography, you're basically not gonna make it. Like he was like, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, you're not gonna make it. You know, he's just being real, and like I appreciate that. But he's like, if you really want to make money and make good money, you go to corporate. You do corporate production. And I was like, okay. So leaving high school, I was like, Apple. I gotta get a job in Apple. And so that didn't happen. But like, I've taken all of my jobs have been leading me to a direction of a tech company. And now I'm in a tech company doing this. And I'm not doing video production in a tech company. I'm doing AV, which is, I think because of the pandemic has made it successful. AV is like what companies need.
Thrives, right?
It thrives off of AV, audio video, as in like running audio and video for meetings and live stream of like keynotes, events, of the big events that are happening. And that's what is needed. And it's not really video production, but that's my story. That's how I am right now.
I'm curious though, because like I remember you saying this earlier that your parents, right? Your parents, when you were younger, were like, why is this kid messing up, right? Yeah. It sounded like this was it. They were accepting the fate of like, you know what, he's not going to do anything, or he's just going to drop out, right? So now, how's your family? How are your parents reacting to all this now?
My mom says she's proud of me, right? As every mom kind of does. She's like,
you're my golden star.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily that. You know, I get the occasional like, good job. Like, you know, you're blessed because you work so hard and this and that and blah, blah, blah. My dad, on my other hand, does not tell me he's proud of me. He doesn't say anything. He just is like, cool.
That's cool.
That's cool. Whatever. It's like very whatever to him. But I don't know if it's because he doesn't care.
Or he just doesn't understand.
Doesn't understand what I do. So he's just like, this kid's stupid. Or whatever. I don't know. But, I mean, we don't really have that close of a relationship. You know, like, I don't go to him and I'm like, advice. Because I got to a point where I would ask him for advice about, like, how do I negotiate a salary? How do I do this? How do I do that? And he never did all that because my dad was just
the worker bee.
He was a worker bee, but he was blue collar, and you don't. It's a lot of those jobs are just hourly. You're not salary. Yeah. Right. So you don't know how do you negotiate a salary, or how do you like negotiate a higher wage? He wasn't doing stuff like that because he had so much on the line. Yeah. He had to raise the kids. He had to make sure that his mortgage was getting paid. You know, it wasn't just like rent anymore. It was like a whole mortgage. Putting us through school.
All of that.
That financial burden So he couldn't have like, balls of steel and be like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell him, you pay me this or I'm out of here, you know? So growing up, my dad pushed me and encouraged me, because I said earlier, they didn't give me advice. They encouraged me to do a lot of stuff. And one of the things my dad and I took to heart, I took a lot of things my dad says to heart. He doesn't really think I do, or he doesn't think I'm listening, but I do.
I feel like every dad's like that.
Every dad's like that. He's like, this idiot's not listening to me. It's like, you're telling me advice or telling me to do things, but I can't literally just get up and be like, you're right, I'm going to go do that right now. Like, that's not what happens, And so like, he'd always told me, he's like, I forgot the words he used, but basically just to sum it up, he's like, don't let anyone punk you. And basically just like, if someone's disrespecting you, honestly, just say, fuck you, just fuck them and leave. Right. Cause like, they're not respecting you. And my dad was like, being Latino and Chicano, there's no white privilege. Let's just be honest, we had to work harder in order to get somewhere, So, my dad when I was growing up, he was telling me, he's like, one of these days you're gonna experience some racism. And I was like, why? He's like, because you're brown. I'm like, what does that mean? And then, it finally happened. But, he encouraged me to be able to like, to be, courageous and fearless, when it came to working. Cause he was like, don't worry, I got you. Like, if you can't figure it out, like, start over. It's all good.
So now with the job that you're at, right? Does it require like a degree? Or
it could
just experience?
I think it's both. Everybody has a degree there except for me.
Okay.
What type of degree is different. Like one of my coworker, he has a communications degree from what I understand. The director, I don't know what degree he has. And I know my other coworker, the manager, he has a video production or a business. He is in video production degree, but it's in like emphasis in business.
So then if everyone around you, right, they have a degree, it sounds like in various, fields.
Yeah.
How do you or an individual like you build some sort of trust in your skills, right? Because again,
like confidence?
Your confidence is what gets you there?
Are you asking
like trust, like as
trust
in
in myself, or
trust in your skills, feel confident in your skills?
How do I feel confident in my skills?
For like a company to feel confident hiring you, like does it have to be shown by the way you carry yourself, the experience you like?
I think it's multiple things. It's not just your technical skills.
Okay.
You have to be able, if you can talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. I think a lot, like, to be honest, so video production and AV are different. They're categorized as in the same field, but they're two different beasts. Video production is like, you're shooting a video, and if you want to yell cut, restart, you could do that. AV is not that. There is no cut, restart. It's you're doing live streaming, and like these are live events, as in people are there, pressure's on. So you have to be like on it, like constantly. You can't, there's no dropping the ball. So you by title is like technician, right? Or like something like that. I forgot exactly the title, what it is. It's like AV tech. But you have to go with you have to have confidence that you can do something and own it, and like go into these multi-purpose rooms and go into these theaters and run an entire event, know how to run the audio, run the video, run a switcher, mic people up, and run it, and then troubleshoot if anything goes wrong, right?
Okay.
You have to have confidence in your skills to do that. How you gain those skills is kind of, I had to learn those. So like so going back, I guess I'm just going off too fast, or there are two different beats, right? I was in video production and I was not in audio visual.
Okay.
So I didn't do live streaming. I didn't run events, stuff like that. So when I went to the job I just left, I was doing nothing but video production going into that job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that I was going to do a bunch of video stuff. And I was like, yeah. So I went in there and my title was media coordinator, because I was going to coordinate all this media, all these video and photo assets. And then I was jumped and pushed into live streaming. And I had never live streamed before. So I was like, what the hell is this? And they were like, I was just having to like watch all these things happen. And I'm like, and he's like, press live. And I'm like, what do you mean live? He's like, go live. And I'm like, go live on what? And he's like,
live on air. What
live on air. He's like, you're going to go press live. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. And go live. And then he's all like, yo, people are watching. And I'm just watching this like there's count. You can see how many people are viewing your live stream. And then it was like up, 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 up. And as you're doing it, I was like, I remember I'm like, yo, this many people are watching right now. He's like, yeah, so don't fuck up.
So stay on your toes.
My boss was all like, yeah. He didn't really say that, but also he's one of the best people ever.
Yes.
He's going to be on the show. His name's Kendrick.
Shout out
he
to
taught
Kendrick.
he has taught me so much. And going to that job, I had no confidence in AV because I had never done it before. And he basically, the same thing that my teacher did in CCOC, he gave me all the bare necessities, the basics of how to do video production, and then I had to go on YouTube and I learned everything else aside from going like to community college for a bit. And so my boss at the time gave me like a rundown on how everything was working, and without getting in super technical. And then as things go wrong, as they do every single time, like when you're about to do something in an event,
boom,
something goes wrong. Every single event. I don't know why. It just happens. And so as I'm doing that, he's troubleshooting. I'm watching and I'm like, just tell me what you're doing. Like, you don't have to like stop and, like I was like, can you just tell me what you're doing? He's like, I got to do this. And he's doing it. He's like, what I'm doing is this and this and that. And I'm like, what are you saying? And I'm like, okay. So I was like, at a fast pace, learning all this jargon, trying to keep up with all this jargon of what he's saying. Is like, this is routed here, and this is this, and it goes here, and this is the stream key goes into here, and you have to embed the code in this. And I'm like, what is going on? This is not video production. And then he's like, no, it's live streaming. It's different. He's like, there's two different things. And I was like, oh, okay. So like,
gotta figure it out.
I gotta figure it out, and I eventually did. And so I'm an overly confident person.
Yes, I agree.
In my life.
Yes.
So I was able to put that into my my work, my career, like in life. And everything, I approach everything with a like, don't worry, I got it. Attitude.
Okay.
And with that, you also have to, that's what I'm saying, if you're going to walk the walk, you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Okay.
So if I say that, in any means necessary, I will figure it out. And so with doing that, I put so much pressure on myself that there was no room to fuck up. There was no room for error, ever. Because my job was at jeopardy. I would put my job in jeopardy all the time, and I would constantly stress myself out, putting all this pressure, and probably unnecessary pressure on myself, but it was what I felt I needed in order to learn at a fast pace.
Okay.
So I would do those things and constantly be scared or freaked out, but it made me learn so much faster, and so that's why I was able to, basically almost a year later, just leave that job and go straight into the tech company, not because of my technical skills. And literally, I was told, you're basically not getting this job because you know how to do all these things, because I present myself to the customer
well. So people skills.
So my people skills were like above average, I guess, to the other candidates that were trying to come in. And so you have to not, so like it's a mixture of things. You got to know how to do the job, right? Because you can always learn.
Yeah.
Right. You got to be teachable. That's another thing. You got to be teachable. Because you can teach a dog tricks, right? But like you can't teach them everything. You can't teach social skills. You know, you either got it or you don't. Some people just don't have social cues, and welcoming,
quick on your feet.
Like, how fast can you think through things? Can you dumb things down?
Right.
How well can you dumb things down for people? And that's another thing that I think I know how to do. And it's like, I think it's like a lot of stuff. I don't know if the right wording is mansplaining things, right? You mansplain things, but like when a customer says like, can you provide me this many microphones and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll do this. But you shouldn't get super technical. Like, I can do this and blah, 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 and it'll do this because it's routed here. They don't want to know that. All they want to know is, can you give me this many things?
Yes or no.
Can you provide this? Yes or no.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. Like those things, that saying, like there's so many sayings that are so funny, right? Like, keep it simple, stupid. That just reign true and in everyday life, right?
Okay.
Time is money, and that's how I've lived my life. Like, time is money. Like, you're wasting my time. And I think there's pros and cons to that attitude, but like that is how I've progressed.
Okay, that's cool.
I personally feel like I've progressed so much faster because I'm like, I'm quick and people appreciate that, you know, and the people skills go hand in hand with that.
Okay.
So
who wouldn't fit this job? Who, like, if anyone's listening should know that if you have these qualities, this ain't the field for you.
I guess people that have no confidence in themselves.
Okay.
If you're not very confident in yourself, probably you shouldn't go in this career, because there is a lot of stuff that rides on you're dealing with clients, and especially right now, like now that I'm in a tech company, the clients are bigger. You know, like it's not just like hey, Joe Schmo down the street wants to come use your theater, wants to rent your theater. It's like, hey, this corporation's coming and they own iPhones and stuff like that. Like, you should probably know your shit.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't just go in there. Like, you can totally live the fake it till you make it lifestyle, but that's going to catch up to you one of these days, right? So if you're not able to have confidence in yourself, if you're not a quick learner, and you're just super cocky, I don't think cocky people really thrive here, because I think you get to a certain level where you'll be pushed out if you just don't fit in, right? Because there's a certain personality I think you should have in this place. Like, you got to be confident, but you got to be cool. You know,
of course.
There's a lot of assholes out there in different jobs. Like, I think people that from I experience, there's a lot of cocky people in like sales, right? Super cocky. They also make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So like, I can understand that. Like, you're not making buku bucks in this industry. This is a job that like you enjoy going to every day. And I have more than several occasions met people that are in sales that are like, yeah, sales sucks, but it makes a fuck ton of money, so I'm going to keep doing this. I'm like, yeah, but are you happy? They're like, well, when I get my check, I am. And I'm like, yeah, I can't live that life.
I can't do that.
I would rather work multiple jobs, which I do. I have 3 jobs.
Oof.
And not because like it's like I'm super stressed out with money, but it's like, I like to live a certain lifestyle, and I like to buy things like this. And I don't want that to come out of my regular paycheck. Like, I'll work part-time to pay for these things.
So all in all, you're a hustler.
I'm a hustler. Yeah.
Gotta always figure out the next step,
always figure out the next step. And the next step after this is real estate. So this is just this
That's
job.
a hot topic.
That is a hot topic. This is like I turned this into a 9 to 5 for steady income, so I could do other things, and I was figuring out what the next thing was. But I'm learning that the next thing I want to do is invest in real estate. So my parents did it, and now I want to do it. But you gotta get the funds somewhere. But anyways, sorry, bring it back. This job, if you're not like super confident in yourself, if you're not teachable, because you got to be teachable, and you're not sociable, like you don't have social skills, like you don't get social cues, and if honestly, what I learned at this place so far, you just gotta you just gotta know what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you sound stupid, they'll call your bluff real quick.
Oof.
If you don't know what you're talking about, someone will call you out. And so and haven't experienced it yet, but like with the type of demeanors and attitudes these clients have, they'll check you real quick and humble you real quick if you're trying to like fake it till you make it. Then you meet these people that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're just like, because they're not stupid people, because you got to be obviously you're pretty smart to get in that position. They're gonna be like, does this dude even know what he's talking about?
Oh, wow.
Like, get his ass out of here. Get someone else in here.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay.
But that's the life of video production and AV that I've experienced.
That's great.
So going now into you.
Oh, God.
We got to hear your story. So take it away.
So basically, I like to start off by saying, like, I come from immigrant parents, right? My parents came here when they were pretty young. My dad was 15. My mom was about 7 years old. So when they came over here, they wanted their slice of the American dream, right? So my dad actually dropped out in 6th grade, right? He came to the U.S. at age 15, and he was your janitor. He was your grocery boy.
Mine specifically?
Yes, down the street, around the corner, right there. So, and he would have multiple jobs, right? But my dad had this mindset that if school wasn't for me, I got to work, right? My mom, on the other hand, she went to school. She actually dropped out in high school, and she decided school ain't for me. Like, she even tried returning as an adult, and she still said, it ain't for me. She's like, I would have stayed if I had C's, but mija, I had straight F's. So I knew by week 3, it wasn't for me, and she dropped out. So my parents met, right? They fell in love, everything, and then they had us, right? So I have 5 brothers. I'm the only girl. I'm also the second oldest. And if you don't know this, right, a lot of firstborn Latina daughters have a lot of responsibility. You got to take care of the house. You got to take care of the kids. And you're figuring a lot of things out on your own. Education, right? Learning in school was all on my own. Now, I was the special kid who had to stay after school. We had after school programs in order to improve my reading, writing, everything. I was an alcohol, tequila. So I had to stay after school to get my reading, my math, everything up. But nobody told me, right? I was an ESL kid as well. So I did all those programs, and I needed extra help.
Like when? Like middle school?
Elementary school. Like
Elementary
since the start, since like TK, preschool, whatever called back then. I always needed extra help. Now my parents don't know anything per se.
Do
right?
they speak English though?
My dad only speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she speaks English, but her comprehension of English is lower than her ability to speak English.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're helping me with homework, right, it's always that whole, like, they ask me, what's 5 plus 5? Little old me was like 7. And they just start saying it louder and louder. What's 5 plus 5? I'm like, 8. And I end up crying, right? So I had to stay after school, everything. And this continued up until, I believe, like the 4th or 5th grade, just leaving out. And something clicked. I forgot which teacher exactly, but all they told me was if I was able to score a certain level, I would get a medal. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
Now, to me, that was everything. I don't know why, Okay, I don't want to get all like psychology into it, but I wanted that medal. And so I worked my butt off every single day. I would stay, I would get extra help, everything. I would read at home in order to bring up my grades. Jumped into middle school, the same thing. I had like 1F in middle school, and that was like my world was crushing, because from elementary, I decided that I'm the only one that can get help. I'm the only one who can rely on me in terms of like a successful future. Now, my parents were supportive, right? They always said, it's either you go to school or you go to work, because they couldn't say anything, right? They dropped out. But I thought, right? I was one of the people that thought, I need a piece of paper, right? I needed a degree in order to get out of my situation of uncertainty.
Now, is that because someone told you that, or you just...
I was told.
By who?
I was told. It was like fifth grade. Fifth grade, they introduced this topic of like, which college do you want to go to? And I was like, I don't even know what college was. I was like, oh, I'll go to Stanford. I'll for sure get into Stanford, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Sadly, I realized later on, right, when it's time to apply, that it's extremely difficult. So I thought that was my ticket out, right? This little ESL kid thought this was her ticket out. So I started working towards that. School became my priority, and I worked all in academics. I would go into AP classes, honor classes, anything that I could do to prove to myself that I will have a better future. Now, in high school, it's time to determine, like, where are you going in life?
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. All I did was I read something, I circled something, I get a passing grade over and over and over and over again. And
so it was an easy process, because you know, like, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So as long as I do this, turn it on time,
I get this, and I keep it moving. And now in high school, even, that's what they preach, right? You gotta go to college. You gotta do this.
Definitely.
But they don't tell you the realities. How much is college? How much will that impact you financially? And is college for you? Yeah. Right? Now, I know it's weird for a teacher to say, is college for you? Yeah. But I realized that I probably wouldn't have chose to go to college if I knew there were other things in high school, like trade school. Yeah. Like CCOC, right? We had CCOC, but I learned too late to join, because by the time I found out, I was like in the middle of my junior year, and I would have been like a dental assistant or something. And see, but like,
I don't know your situation like that, right? But like, a lot of the kids that found out about that is because they were missing credits, right? It wasn't just because like, yo, this will really help your career. This will help you in life. And, you know, because all the schools need is they need you to graduate to get their funding.
That was it.
You know, they got to get their numbers.
Yeah.
Because it's a business.
And that's what it felt like, right? They kept saying like, oh, apply. But the sad reality, it's like nobody took the time to realize that my dad told me straight up. He's like, if you're going to college, proud of you. I'm not paying for it. You got to figure it out. Again, I had to figure out school.
Now, is it because he didn't want to support it, or because he couldn't
afford it? He couldn't. My dad's a gardener, right? Landscaper. He owns his own business and everything, which is successful in its own. But like, you have a family of 8. Yeah. You got 8 mouths to feed in that household.
We know Mexicans love to have that many kids.
Big family. My mom has 9 brothers and sisters. My dad has like 4 brothers and sisters.
I just don't get that. Like, why?
You know what? Let me just tell you, the carne asadas, bomb.
Yeah, but you know how much expensive that is when you have to feed that many people?
But if everyone... that's a different topic, right? I have a different thing I'll preach. But back to like my dad, he's not able to pay for that. Education is like, what, $60,000 on average for university? Don't quote me, but when I was applying in the schools that I wanted to go to, they were like $60,000 in tuition. So I had
for all 4 years.
No, just for 1 year. The school that I wanted.
Oh, the specific school you went to.
It was like a private school.
Oh, okay, well that's
and they had the
why.
program that I wanted at that time, but I didn't know anything else. Yeah. I literally applied to like 2 or 3 schools, and I was like, if I get it, if I don't, then I guess school's not for me. But again, my dad said, figure it out. So the only person who helped me in high school to really determine like what am I gonna do was Miss Bolaños. Love her. I known her like for 3 years, of the 3 years during my high school time. And she told me, she's like, you're not going to know this now. You'll know this later, but you just have to go to college. You just got to go. She's like, I'm not wanting to see you just end right here. You have so much more to offer. And I'm like, really? Do I? I've been getting grades like if there were, pieces of candy and that was it. That was all. Yeah. And she's like, you'll see, you'll find out. She's like, just apply. She's like, just apply, stop it. And being part of, the Latino community, you get this imposter syndrome, right? You don't believe in yourself. You start doubting. You start thinking like, this can't be.
I don't know if it's just Latino.
Oh, but it's not just, right? It's mostly minorities.
I think anyone can get it.
Yeah, but a lot of it impacts like minority groups, right? And so you feel this glass ceiling and you feel like you can't break it. So you start to think like, what's the point? Yeah. And then finally, just because my teacher told me, you'll figure it out. You've been figuring it out. Just go. Yeah. So I applied. I got into a 4-year university, went there, and during my 4 years, still don't know what I was doing. I was enrolled in a degree, and
what do you mean you didn't know you're doing? Like you didn't know what you were doing at school, or you didn't know what you were doing in life?
In life, right? Because during my time in college, I didn't really work that much because I was given grants. I got grants and scholarships to fund my education, and so I was so scared to lose that that I've just focused on school again. I come from a family of 8. Parents can't pay for it. At that time, the school that I chose to go to, tuition, because it was home, like I was a local, it was only set $14,000 a year, which is
that's cheap.
It's cheaper than
cheaper
than where I was applying everywhere else. Yeah. So I felt like I have to hold on to this. This is my only ticket. I have to. I can't mess this up. I can't drop the ball. Nothing. So I just went to school again, got the grades, and I would freak out because I think there was like one semester where it's like my grants and scholarships have run out. And I was like, I thought I was going to drop out. I thought I was literally going to drop out and my future, my everything was over. Again, imposter syndrome, feeling that glass ceiling caving in. And the thing that kept me there was I loved what I learned. That's the one thing that I realized. I love learning. So I got a degree in psychology because I like learning about individuals, why people do the things that they do, how people react, because my focus was whatever I'm going to do in life, I want to be a good person.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to make a change, if it's not in this world, but with an individual. And if that's listening, I'll listen. So got my degree, left, and then, college is over. What do you do? I was frozen. COVID happened in 2020. I graduated.
So how long have you been out of college?
As of right now, 2 years, about 2 years. So, but right when I got out, I was just like, there's nothing to do. There's no jobs. There's nothing. I'm just going to sit at home. And you start getting this empty feeling of like, what else could be there? Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I got to jump into the career, right? I got a degree. I got to find my career. And I started to look, and I found behavior technician, right? I got to work with children who are diagnosed with autism, practicing social skills, communication skills, and like how to appropriately behave within a social setting, which was amazing, right? Yeah. I got to teach kids how to say their first word, or I was able to have like some type of some nonverbal and verbal communication, and it felt so nice to be there. But I looked deeper within. I was like, do I want to pursue this career like in the psychology field?
Did it give you any satisfaction?
It gave me satisfaction to work with children, right? And I liked the teaching aspect of it, because during my time as a BT, behavioral technician, they assigned me to like a preschool classroom.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a challenge. We're talking about kids bouncing off the wall. We're talking about kids who would just run out of the room, right? Because they've never been in a classroom before.
Yeah.
And I was the main teacher for them.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of teaching. So I decided, let me just look into teaching. But because I was so, I guess, scared or anxious that I'm like, I'm not pursuing my degree, I'm going to find something close to it, right? Because I still love my kids with special needs, right?
Yeah.
And I found special education mild to moderate, and I started to look deeper within, and I was just like, this is so cool. And on top of it, I have a younger brother who is in special education with some learning disabilities, and it just empowered me more. And just the sound of it, talking to other people, right, who are in the sped field, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a shot. And when I decided I'm gonna give it a shot, job posting popped up, right, out of anywhere. If that's not fate, if that's not like life telling you just take a chance.
Yeah. So what were the resources you used in order to get to that whole thing, though?
So the
like
resources,
looking into that, like what encouraged you, what led you there?
So the resources, other than doing your own research, right, other than talking to people in that field, like we have someone in common who worked in there, and that
person's my sister.
Yes.
If we're just gonna, we can just.
We're just gonna straight up. Yes,
yeah.
Your sister that she was
who
just
was
like
also a sped teacher,
formerly, and to just try it out, because it's fulfilling, and it's a field that it's a high need. And so I started looking more into it, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I applied for that job, and I talked to the director and the manager in that district, and it was like music to my ears. And I was like, okay, I'm going for it. Lo and behold, I got it.
Yeah.
And I'm there. So in order to stay there, right, I have to pursue my credential. I have to pursue my master's. Personally, me, a desire master's, just because it fuels my ego, right? Just because you hear in life that, you know, Latinos, this is it, right? You're either working as a landscaper, a janitor, and that's it, right? And I'm like, you could do that, and you could be successful in that, right?
As a teacher?
As a teacher or as a janitor, whatever it may be. But there's something within me where it's like, if my parents couldn't finish middle school, high school, I want to be the person to set up my future generation to see this is a possibility for you.
Yeah.
Screw what the world's saying. Just do it. So now I'm in the master's program, and it's hard, but it's fulfilling. And every time I'm in this classroom, I want to stay. I want to work. Like the tears, the stress are worth it.
Yeah.
The faces that I see every single day, it's amazing. Even though I want to pull my hair out, even though I want to like sit in the corner and be like, I got to scream.
Yeah.
Right. I want to touch someone's heart, because a lot of my students, my kids are like, I don't care about school. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to amount to anything. And I'm like, no, like just like Miss Grimes, right?
Yeah.
With you. I'm like, no, this can't be your story. This is not it. And if I can touch one kid, like in terms of their heart, I feel like I did my job, and that's fine. So now I've been teaching. This would be my second year of teaching, and I hope to finish my master's sometime in the summer. And yeah.
So how did you get, so you're saying like you applied for this job,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what were the steps that you needed? Because you don't have a teaching credential.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have a teaching credential. All you have is a bachelor's.
Yeah.
So for someone who might have a bachelor's,
yeah.
right? Because the bare minimum, you need a bachelor's
mm-hmm.
to become a teacher
mm-hmm.
in a public school, correct?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of private schools too, but you need some form of degree, bachelor's, in order to be a teacher. So what are the steps someone would need to take in order to, or just if you can explain your route and how you have approached this?
So basically, there's two routes. There's the typical, and then I would say there's the atypical. Typical being that if you felt the calling, right, to being a teacher, then you would go enroll in a 4-year, right, or go through an associate's, then a 4-year, and you'll go into early education, right, or humanities. You'll earn that degree, and with that, it leads you to a credential.
Yeah.
For the atypical, it's individuals who probably, again, like myself, started out in a field where it's like this. I thought this was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
But there's something else, and then they dive into teaching. If you have your bachelor's, because you do need a bachelor's to be a teacher, you can join a credential program. And in California, there's such a high need. We're like in a teacher crisis that we want people to join here. And they are flexible to work with individuals to become teachers. Not saying that California is just, handing out jobs to whoever.
Yeah.
There are specific steps you must take, and they will evaluate you and supervise you during the time that you're getting this credential, because I have deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
I still have deadlines. I still have expectations. I have people looking over me and assisting me so that I can fulfill that. If I'm not fulfilling those requirements, I'm out. Mm-hmm. Right? Because again, still, this is education. These are kids, the future, right? The future generation that we have to take care of. So for me, I just jumped into a credential program. Now you can join whatever credential program. And I interviewed for a job. Another option could be that you could talk to your school, and they might pair you with a public school to work into. Once you got the interview, you went through and everything. For me, I'm a special case. I am the teacher, right? I'm not just the teacher on the side, an intern teacher, if you will, because again, we're still a high need for teachers.
Now, do you think that's because specifically you're in a special needs program?
Yes. I think it has to do something with that.
But you're not sure.
But I'm unsure about that. I would have to ask more with like the gen ed teachers. Mm-hmm. But as far as like my sped teacher, yes, there's especially with special education, there's no teachers. It's a really hard field to get into, and it's a lot of stress, right? But there's a lot of joy. Trust me, because I can tell you, every time I have come home, I always have a story.
Yes,
I always have a high, and might be a low, but I have a lot of highs too.
You do have a lot of highs.
Like, oh my God, if I could spend an hour talking about the stories,
Yeah, you do.
Right?
While you're making dinner, you're just
okay.
going on.
I know. So I'm just checking in right now with an instructional coach, and I'm taking my classes, and I basically have a paper to show all the hours that I've been working at my job. Mm-hmm. My instructional coach, which is at the school site, signs off, right? And I'm getting evaluated by the district. And if everything checks out, I come back the next year. If that year checks out again, by the third year, which they expect to have for me to be fully credentialed
with your credential program.
Yeah. That they will offer me like a permanent position.
And then you start tenure?
Well, 10-year is the old term.
10-year.
10-year. The new term is permanent position.
Okay.
Right? You're within the district. You're locked in, right?
Got it.
And yeah, basically just checking in and doing all that. You honestly learn on the fly of how it works.
Yeah.
Again, I only know my situation and SPED and how that can go down, and because you still have to take like certain tests or show coursework to be in the role that you are.
Yeah.
And you still have to get like 180 hours in. So it's not just that they are starting to hand out teaching jobs to everyone. You still have to do a lot of things. So if you know a teacher who didn't have this plan beforehand, right? They're just jumping in. They changed career paths. Just because they're still in a credential program doesn't mean that they're not qualified, right? They have the passion and they're working towards they're meeting multiple people to support and to develop your skills to do that.
So it sounds like, because I talked so much more than you, right? It sounds like you did not have that much of a struggle growing up with like education and like almost like authority and this and that, like how I did.
Oh.
So it sounds like you just like, you was very streamlined for you. Like you didn't have those struggles I did, right? Because you kind of explained it like you learned this equation or this like formula that like if I do this, I get this, and I'm told that if I do this and get this degree, that
this is what's going to happen.
That the door is open, then all of a sudden you get a great job.
So here's the thing. So first of all, I come from a traditional Latino family, right? So my mom and my dad have always told me, I better not get a call, right, from your teacher. Okay? Because if I get a call from your teacher, I will show up every day. Like that's the end of me.
What if they're calling to say like, Jocelyn did a great job.
Okay,
today.
that's something else, right? And then I'll be like dancing, I'll be happy. But if
that never happens,
right? But if I get a call home that I was
smoking weed
or doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing, or being a bully or whatever, my mom backs the teacher up. She's that's for a reason, right? We don't tolerate that. You respect your elders, and that was it. So I didn't question it. And I'm like a very chill person. I don't have any bad blood. I don't like confrontation, right?
Yeah.
I could bring confrontation, no problem. But I wanted to learn.
Okay.
Right? I truly believe.
You enjoyed learning. You enjoyed school.
Yeah. I truly believe like this is what I want to do. So I love being in the classroom. Yeah. I loved it a lot. I have lots of teachers that I remember, like, Miss Billings. I remember Miss Alexander. I remember, who else? Miss Bolaños. There's a whole bunch of other teachers that like have stuck with me, because I felt like they added more confidence into like, yes, I can learn. Yeah. I can grow. I can do these things. Because before I would be so scared to have red marks on my paper because I'm ESL, right?
Yeah. Do you feel like you had to try even harder because you were ESL?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so I said earlier that when I was growing up, my dad also told me that like, because I'm brown, you gotta work harder than the person next to you. Yeah. Right. So did your parents ever say anything like that to you? Did they ever preach that you have to work harder because you're first generation, because you're Latina, anything like that? So
I think it was my dad. My dad told me that I have to work harder, not just because they don't know how to guide me in school and like beyond like a career path, but just the simple fact that like you got statistics out there against you, and you got attitudes against you. Now they didn't shape it like racism, because I think my parents wanted to fluff things up and be like, you don't know this yet, but I wish they would have told me.
Like the opposite of my parents?
Yeah.
They were just so blunt. They're like,
I mean, I appreciate
you're
that.
You're going to get some shit out there? Because you better figure it out.
No, trust me. I went into a job interview once and they were like, you know what? It's cool that you know Spanish so you can talk to them in the back and we can know what they're saying.
Yeah,
and I'm like, sir, I was like, this feels so weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, didn't take that job. I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. But the one thing I know that, like, for me, I'm like very light skin. I'm the güerita of everything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm undercover a lot of times.
Okay.
But I still have like, I'm still Mexican. I'm still here. I still feel like I have to beat an odd. Right. And I got to make not just my ancestors proud, but I got to make sure like my community has that access as well. So I always feel like I got to work harder, not just because for me, but for my people as well.
So who do you think this job's for, and who should stay away from it?
Okay, so those who do not like kids, stay away.
Okay. Because
sadly, those who don't like kids, you're gonna hate your job.
Well, I feel like that's just a given, right? Like, why would someone talk about
because I got stories, and I've heard things from other teachers where there have been individuals who would look at a kid and be like, you're not going to amount to anything. I've had experiences where a teacher told one of my friends, you know what, all y'all are going to be as pregnant and that's it. Right? Yeah. So if you don't like kids, if you don't have the patience for kids, don't do it. Don't be that person, right? Yeah. Don't take teaching as like you're just hurting people. Don't take teaching as, you know what, I got nothing to do. I got to retire and that's it. Yeah. Right? Because it's not beneficial for you and your happiness. It's not beneficial for that kid's life either. So patience is another one. You need patience. You have to be quick on your feet as well, right? Because things happen. You might not have enough supplies. Literally, when you start, or actually when I started, I was just handed keys and a roster. And I got my classroom, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I have to think. So you got to be independent, but you also have to be collaborative, right? You got your department to work with. You got fellow teachers to reach out. You cannot be shy. You cannot be shy. You have to ask for help. And in a certain level, like even though it's your first year, you almost want to like demand it and be like, I am here, I matter. Because my first year was so hard to figure things out that I looked at my instructional coach and I was like, you know what, I think I'm done. Like, I don't think this is meant for me. And she looked at me and she goes, you're kidding, right? Yeah. Because when I see you teach,
she can see the passion.
I see the passion. I see how you're working with the kids. The kids are like responding, everything. You're hitting everything that you need. She's like, what's going on? I go, I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't have enough resources. And she's like, say less. She's like, that's why I'm here. And if it's not for her, like coming through her, I go to the next teacher and they're like, what's wrong? I go, I don't know what to teach this day because like, I don't know. Like, I don't have anything. Nobody teaches you how to teach.
Well,
sadly, like
you go to school for that.
No, let me tell you.
Well, okay, but you didn't. Okay, so you don't know that because you didn't major in.
Oh well, I didn't go in early education, right?
For like that wasn't your bachelor's. Right. It's your master's now, but your emphasis is in
special education.
So you're learning how to deal with special education, but you don't know if they teach you how, because like you in a bachelor's.
No, what I mean is like nobody is grabbing your hand. Is like, okay, so when you're in the front of the classroom, this is what you have to do. This is your body language.
It's almost like I was like the social skills for
the social skills,
for
right?
My degree or my field.
So they can tell you techniques for like classroom management, right? And you're learning about it and how it works. But when you're like in the classroom, that's where teaching happens. Yeah. This is like real life.
So like how do you get your thought out is what you're saying. Like how do you teach someone how to do something? Right. So like how do you think you've combated that? Or how do you feel like you know how to do that?
So
you're like now that you say it.
No, when you put it that way. No, the thing is that, again, great people skills, social skills,
You feel you have that.
problem solving skills in the moment. Yes. And then learning that like when something goes wrong, that you try again, that you pick it up, right? You can't let the kids know like, oh, I messed up. Necessarily messed up. You just say, you know what? Let's try something else. Right?
Okay.
You got 99 problems, right?
Yeah.
You just got to find one solution.
Okay.
So
do you catch yourself sometimes being like, oops, and you try to give it a spin off?
I might go, oops, and I actually have to pause, right? Because like you can see the question marks in the kid's face, and you take a break, and you're just like, okay, you know what?
You lose them,
and you have to realize stop.
Not necessarily like you don't know what you're doing. You just
see it's not working.
You have to find a different way to like get that information to them. And, you
gotta adapt.
I think that there's a lot of teachers that don't know how to do that, right? Because I feel like there are so many people that go into this field, and because we all deal with them, right? This is not something that you can avoid in life. You have to go to school. You have to deal with teachers, right? Or else you get in trouble. So it's like, I feel like sometimes the benchmark to be a teacher and how like the hoops you should jump through to become a teacher should be so much harder, right? The reason why I think that is because like there are so many shitty teachers out there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? You know how many teachers you're like, you go to school and you're like, I hate Miss something or Mr. this and because he's a jerk and this and he's always getting me in trouble. And it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Right? Why are there so many?
Yeah.
Why do you think? Why are there so many instances or like
it's the
stories?
It's just that one, it could be like the relationship between student and teacher. Another one could be teaching style, right? When you're in your regular job and you have a manager and they're like overbearing, they're micromanaging, you don't like that manager. That might not be your thing. So when you're in a classroom and you're a particular person that like, I'm independent, like I know what to do, and you have a teacher that's micromanaging or might not really focus on like getting to know you, then you get those moments where it's like, you know what, I might not be very fond of that teacher. So that's one thing, right? It's you just gotta have the patience, you gotta have the care and the attitude to come in and like focus, like how can I change this kid's life?
I think that's the most important thing, especially when it comes to teacher. There's a lot of bad teachers out there, but
there's also a lot of good teachers.
There's tons. I've had, like
and that's the thing.
I've had a few teachers that have made huge impacts on my life. You know, there's 3 teachers that I've had, and the rest I don't even remember their names. But there's these 3. There's Mr. DeWester, Ms. Grimes, and Mr. Furtado. Those are the 3. It was a middle school teacher, high school. They're both high school. But without them, I would not be who. I don't think I'd be here. Maybe. Where I'm at right now. Without them. You know.
Right. And hey, teaching takes time. Like I talked to so many veteran teachers who've been teaching like 20, 30 years. And that's where I got it from. They're like, no one really teaches you how to teach. How to be in that classroom and actually like get to know your students. You are the expert through your experience. Like, yes, you could be like in the degree program and maybe get some like, you know, hours in working. But when you're in front of that classroom with those individuals, those little, you know, human beings, that's where the real teaching happens, because you're learning as well. And over the years, you do make mistakes and you have to correct yourself, right? And then that's when you're well seasoned and you know what you got to do. And I feel like you find this comfort zone of like, these are my skills and I'm going to hone in on it. But still be willing to learn, willing to change. Because if you're just going to have a like narrow mindset on things, you will not be the best teacher you could be.
Yeah, you won't be successful.
Yeah, pretty much. So now I'm just working through my master's, and I hope to finish soon. I love what I'm doing right now. I have a passion for it. I wouldn't continue doing it if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, one thing that we also want to talk about is, pay in these fields.
We love teacher pay.
And these pay and this compensation is kind of based around where we're at, which is the Bay Area. And what I've learned for my field, entry level stuff is around, I think, about 50,000, low 50,000s. And it can reach anywhere over 120. And there's a lot of, factors that go into that with promotions, going into management, becoming a director, all those things. They all play a part in getting to that substantial amount of pay. And to Bay Area standards, I know that's not a lot, but that is a livable wage, and I think a lot of people would disagree with me, but for a field that, if you're interested in this, if you really enjoy what you're doing, can you really put a price on that? And those are the things that I like to think about. And, something that my dad always told me, that I have met a lot of people that don't see eye to eye on this. And sometimes I know you haven't seen eye to eye on it, but it's like, my dad preached to me, if you want more money, work more hours. And I've done that, right? That's hence why I work 3 jobs. Do I need to? Not really. I do it because I just enjoy working, and I hate being bored, and I hate having too much free time. When you clock out, like, I go to the gym, but then it's like I can go to work too, a second job, and make some extra money. And that pays for just all the other little goodies, that I want in life, rather it be new camera gear. Josie wanted a new couch,
It's a very nice couch.
But it's things like that. And what should an entry level teacher look at in the Bay Area, at least?
So it all depends, right? A lot of districts like to compete with each other, right? Because there's so many districts out here, but you can find starting between like 50 to 60, or no, actually 50 to 70,000, I would say, is a good range, right?
Starting range?
A good starting range, right? Where in the Bay Area, and also if all the districts are caught up with, pay raises and things like that.
Yeah.
So starting, and then the way that salary works, right? Again, this is depending on your district. That the first 2 years, the way that we have it set up is that you get, the starting salary, no changes, no increases for 2 years. Once you become permanent, at least for us, you get an increase every year. Now, let's say you are a teacher down south, right? Texas area, and you decide to come to California to teach and to start working here. The amount of years you work down south, you will enroll in California. So if you've been teaching for about, like, let's say 18 years.
Where's the south? Are you talking about?
Like Texas. I said Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. My bad.
Yeah. Listening ears, my friend.
I thought you meant SoCal.
So if you were in Texas teaching for 18 years and you come to California, at least with my district, in the pay scale, they will pay you for the years that you've worked, right? And if you have your credential and everything. Now, let's say you have your master's, you get a stipend for that.
Yeah.
If you're a national board certified teacher, you get a stipend. And there's some cases where, like, if you are working in special education, you get a stipend for that. Now, you only get one stipend usually. It's either for your master's, because you're working in SPED, or because you are nationally board certified, or you have your doctorates, whatever it may be. And yeah, so The more years, the more you go up. And at least from my pay scale, we see teachers who've been teaching for 30 years are making like $120,000. Now, I will always say teachers need to be paid more, because in reality, teachers work around the clock, right?
You're working till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I'm trying to go to sleep. And
grading papers or like thinking like maybe a week ahead of like what you could do or anything like that. Preparing and everything. So you could work 60 hours if you really wanted to. I see teachers who are at school at like 6:30 in the morning. Oh, my bad. And then they don't leave until like 7:30 usually. And that takes a lot, and that's like burnout. Almost like burnout if you're doing that for years. And I just see it as like, I know it's like you want to get paid more, work more hours, but that just doesn't work in education.
It's a little different.
It's a little different. It's more of like, if you want to get paid more, well, you got to teach for longer. Doesn't matter if you're putting in like 80 hours. So that's why I'm always going to advocate across the U.S. teachers need to be paid more.
Definitely.
To survive. Just to survive out here. Because 30 years, 115,000, which is it's a chunk of change, right? But again, you're in the Bay Area. I think we have to, everyone hates California. But we especially specifically in the Bay Area, we do face those high prices and just everything. Our rent, house prices, everything. It's just so high. And that's the one thing, like, again, if you were to if you were a teacher down south, their salary might be different than ours, right? Because someone might be hearing this and being like, "Oh my God, you're getting paid $60,000 starting your first year,
like 10 years,
right?" I go, it's different, right? The Bay Area, it's so expensive that it's really hard. Now I feel for the teachers who probably are single parents, and everything, and it might sound a lot for first year teacher to be making that. But in reality, and every veteran teacher will say this, it's not that much starting. It's not, you have to build up for it, especially when you walk into a classroom. The reason why it's so magical and so pretty and like a safe place, or feels like a safe place for learning, it's not coming out of the district's pocket a lot of the time. It's coming out of the teacher's pocket. I met a teacher and they said they spent $10,000 in their room.
That's a lot.
10,000 over the course of like, what was it, like 5 years, their first 5 years. And then they realized, I can't supply this no more. Like, this teacher went above and beyond for their kids. So always, teachers need to be paid more.
Well, on that note, one thing I would love to also give information about is, how do we find these jobs? I personally, the resources I used for a lot of these jobs, not specifically just for my video production and all that stuff, but I use like Indeed.com. I've gotten gigs on Craigslist, and just Googling job, which always ends up back at Indeed or LinkedIn. But those are all the platforms that I've used, websites I've used in order to get these job interviews and land these jobs. And for you, I know that you use a lot of, for teachers specifically, in this, you used a resource of
edjoin.
edjoin.org. And that was where
a very useful tool.
You find a lot of teaching jobs in the area, specifically because they're government jobs, and they're union. Edjoin.org is how you'll find a lot of the teaching jobs around here. And if you're looking for something in private school, a lot of those private schools are not on Edjoin. You can find those on Indeed, but there is a website. I'm losing it. I forgot what it's called. But
you're killing me, Smalls.
if you Google private school jobs, Specifically, yes, because I used to work in education as well.
Like, I think when, like, if you have a diocese, right, or like
well, that's different. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the private school, right?
Googling private school jobs,
Charter schools.
If there's a diocese, you'll find a lot of those jobs on either Indeed or they have very specific websites for private schools. But yeah, thank you for tuning in for the first episode. We're still learning how to do this. So thank you for listening if you got this far, and bearing with us. And we hope that you'll return for episode 2.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.